I'm Mike from Stratasys. This video tutorial demonstrates the new anchor feature in GrabCAD Print. Anchors are support structures used to improve print quality. On thin, wide models, or models made from materials susceptible to curl like Nylon or Ultem, anchors secure the bottom face of the part to the build tray. Anchors may also be used to secure downward-oriented faces of the part to upward-oriented faces. When toolpaths are generated, support structures and base features will adapt to the anchor feature, ensuring that the model is securely fastened to the tray. If you've programmed jobs for Stratasys printers before, you may be familiar with anchor columns in Insight. Same as the stabilizer feature, Insight is the engine for GrabCAD Print features, but with the improved user interaction common in today's software applications. Anchors are a part of your process plan for programming your job, so make sure you do these things before adding your anchors. Analyze and repair your model, orient your model in space, scale your model if you need to, select your material, slice height, and infill, and change any other settings you require for your process. Now let's go on to show you how to add anchors to your models in GrabCAD Print. To create an anchor, click on the Anchors icon on GrabCAD Print's process toolbar. As I rotate the model, you will see that GrabCAD Print has highlighted faces of the model in blue. These are the faces where you can place an anchor. To create an anchor, pick any location on any blue face. An anchor is created between the face and the build tray using the diameter set in the Anchors panel. A green locator arrow is placed at the anchor location, and if we zoom in, you can see that preview geometry of the anchor is created as well. At the same time, an anchor feature is created in the project pane. If you don't pick on a blue face, your selection will be ignored. If you don't like your anchor location, highlight the anchor and drag it to a location that you think is better. You cannot highlight your anchor and drag it off of a blue face. However, you can highlight your anchor and drag it to another blue face. If GrabCAD Print can't create the anchor, there will be no preview, and GrabCAD Print will give you an error message. There are only a few settings you can vary on an anchor. First, you can vary the anchor style. By default, it's a cylinder, but you can change that to be a cone. Second, you can vary the anchor's diameter. You already saw me do that when I increased it earlier. By default, it's 1/10 of an inch, but that can range as low as 60 thousandths or as high as 1/4 of an inch. For now, I'm going to set it back to its default and change it to be a cone. When I change it to be a cone, I get a second diameter that can be set as well. If I increase it right now, you'll see that GrabCAD Print generates an error because cones are not allowed to be used on the bottommost surface of a part. So my choice here is to either change it back to be a cylinder, or I can drag that to a face where it's no longer the bottommost surface of the part. So I'm going to drag it over here to the middle, place it there. I zoom in, you can see it's generated quite well as a cone, but that's not what I want, so I'm going to change it back to be a cylinder, and I'm going to drag it back to its original location. So long as the Anchors panel is open, if you click on a blue face, an anchor is created and added to the project pane. So I can do this and create many anchors on the faces of my model. But suppose I don't want to create a bunch of independent anchors, but I want to create a set of anchors that all have the same style and the same diameter. I'm going to use Ctrl-Z to remove that last anchor that I just edited. I'm going to reactivate this anchor by double-clicking on it. And what I'm going to do instead here, I'm going to orient into a bottom view, and I'm going to use my Control key, and I'm going to click on additional locations. And as I click on the additional locations, you'll note that the number of locations in my anchor panel is updating to say how many I've got. So I'm going to go and add a couple more locations over on this face. And as you can see here, I'm using the grid of the build tray to determine where I have those locations. And so long as I keep the Control key depressed, I can keep adding anchors that all share that same definition of cylindrical and 1/10 of an inch. I can also keep that control key depressed and remove locations that I don't want, or add them back if I do want them. If I release the control key and click in a new location, you can see from the project pane that I'm creating an entirely new anchor set. Select the control key again, and you can see from the number of locations that this anchor set can have multiple locations of its own, including its own anchor style and dimensions. Now that my second anchor set is completed, I'm going to close the anchor pane and return to a default view. While my anchors are defined, I can return and change them at any point in time over here in the project pane. I showed you earlier by double-clicking on an anchor feature that it opens the anchor pane and restores the preview and locations to view. I can also right-click on an anchor feature and you have the options to edit the anchor or delete the anchor set. If I edit the anchor set, preview gets restored with the locations, and I can easily toggle between different anchor sets I've defined. As I toggle between the different anchor sets I've defined, you can see that the preview for both anchor sets in this case are shown, or the preview for all my anchor sets will be shown, so I always know where I've already placed anchor locations.
Now that we've completed our anchor sets, let's talk about what changes you can make to models that have anchors, what changes you can't make to models that have anchors, and when you need to check your changes to make sure they don't change your process intent. Changes you can make to models that have anchors are: you can copy and paste them, you can duplicate them, you can rotate the model about the z-axis, you can arrange them on a tray, you can change their location on a tray, and you can move them to a new tray. Now let's talk about what you can't do to models that have anchors. You can't rotate about the X or Y axis. You can't reorient using faces or auto-orient. You can't reset the orientation. You can't scale the model. You can't create a group. You can't assemble or disassemble the model. And you can't show or hide individual bodies in an assembly group or multi-body part. Finally, after what changes should I check my anchors? GrabCAD Print does its best to preserve your anchors, but sometimes you should check and make sure that it still represents your process intent. Changes where you should check are changing the material, changing the slice height, moving to an existing tray, arranging a project, changing between printers, or changing between printers and templates. We've reached the end of our tutorial, so let's recap what we've learned. When to use anchors, how to add anchors, cylindrical versus conical anchors, creating sets of anchors, removing anchors, moving an anchor to a new location, editing or deleting existing anchor features, and what you can do and cannot do to models with anchors. Now it's time for you to take this information and use them on your models that need anchors. I'm Mike from Stratasys. Thank you for your time, and thank you for using Stratasys printers, materials, and software products. I hope you have a great day.